This is the one and only T Quest. You are tuned into the T Quest show. Relatable, informative, yet entertaining. Shout out to all my listeners. I love you guys so freaking much. And if you guys don't understand it by now, there's probably something wrong with you. Well, we can work on that together. If you are new to the show, welcome. And if you haven't already, make sure you go follow me on all social media platforms at TQuestGLM. Download the Tico's mobile app in your Google Play Store and your App Store for free. I'm holding at 5 stars strong, so let's keep that going and let's give me those nice reviews because as entrepreneurs, outside of having a lot of customers and clientele, we love to get the reviews from the people because when other people check us out and they Google us, they want to know everyone else's opinions. Make sure you keep it honest, keep it truthful, but just bring that on up. Also, always got to do a mental check. I hope everyone is okay. And if you're not, remember, it is okay to not be okay. You are human. You can have your moments, just don't allow those moments to last longer than they should. Now that I've taken advantage of my own platform in the first minute, it's only right to share it with my special guest. So you guys know we've been doing a random author suite, and it's time to highlight another one. This has been in the making for some time now, but this lady is so busy. It took her forever to squeeze us in, and I'm just like, lady, you gotta get me in. You gotta get me in, okay? We got to get this on and popping. And if you don't, my co-host for the day is going to keep get me up. She's like, look, we got to get her on the show. We got to get her on the show. I'm like, we're going to get her on the show. I don't care if she pencil in from 3 to 4 or 5 months from now. We're going to get her on the show. Okay? So I couldn't do this without the Black Belle herself, the woman who loves books, loves reading, and encourage people to still go to the library and open up a book. Go on Amazon, purchase a book. Of course, I enjoy ebooks as well because as a voiceover specialist, it's kind of part of my job. So yes, I am a number one advocate for audio books for sure, especially if I'm the voice behind it. But yes, remember, reading is fundamental. It is a great escape. It's great happiness, and you get to tap into somebody else's world. And speaking of that, it's time to get the show on the go. So let me bring on my co-host, the owner of Whitney's Escapes Travel Agency, Whitney Lee.
Hey.
Hey, girl.
I'm so excited. I am so excited that we'll be interviewing author Christina C. Jones. I have enjoyed her books tremendously, and I'm so happy that we're finally be able to get behind, the mind of all these great stories that she has created.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's bring her on. And you sure you can handle this a little bit?
I can handle it. Okay, I can handle it.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you author Christina C. Jones.
Let me go over here, Sam. Make sure I'm actually in the camera.
Absolutely. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. It's only right. So for the ones who don't know, tell them who you are and where you're from.
I am Christina Jones, and I am I'm from Chicago, but I live in Arkansas. That's where I've lived the majority of my life. Very quiet here, very green. That's what we're known for, the natural state. And so that is honestly what I guess enjoy most about where I'm from. And sometimes it is, I guess, inspirational for what I
Mhm.
do, a lot of green space. And so when I'm writing that type of scenery, I have it right in my backyard to go out and get inspired by. So I guess that's a positive. Not a ton to do, but unless you just enjoy that.
Okay. So I'm curious because right now I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Indiana, right?
Okay, okay.
So I'm curious, what was the cause of moving from Chicago to Arkansas? I'm just curious.
Oh, the decision was made for me. I was like a baby. I was
Oh.
like 3 or 4 years old. So when I say I've lived in Arkansas most of my life, I've lived in Arkansas most of my life. But it sounds so much cooler to say that I'm from Chicago, and so
That's
I
what
kind
I'm
of
saying
take
too.
on my family's kind of my family street cred, and I claim Chicago, but I'm from Arkansas.
Okay, because it sounds cooler.
Yes.
It does. It does sound cooler.
It does, but the best thing about Arkansas is going to make people curious. Like, wait, but why Arkansas? And as you can tell,
Yeah.
it's been helping you creatively too. So I guess it has a couple of few things in there. So my
Yeah, I should
question
give
to you,
Arkansas a little more credit.
absolutely. So the question I want to ask you is the question I ask all my guests because I'm always curious of what they're going to say. When we were younger, we all had an assignment. When I grow up, I want to be. What did you write down in that assignment?
Oh, I wanted to be a teacher so bad because
Mm-hmm.
where I grew up, all the really fabulous looking black women that I knew, they were teachers. Like that was what I saw and that was what I wanted to be. And then I grew up and I realized that I only like my kids and my friends' kids. I don't like other kids. So that wasn't really, that wasn't really a thing. That wasn't really going to work out. And I don't have good teacher patience, and so even if it wasn't for that, that wouldn't have worked out for me. But I definitely like I was so gung ho. I just knew that that is what I was going to do. I was going to be a teacher. That was all I wanted.
Okay. Did it come true?
No. No.
I mean, it's okay because sometimes when I speak to my guests, I'm like, maybe that was your dream and it didn't come true. But at the same time, I feel that it did come true in a different way. You are teaching people through the stories that you write in your books.
I like that. I like that way of
Mhm.
thinking about it because when I think about it, I'm like, oh God, why did I think that? But
See?
you know what? You are absolutely
Confirmation.
right.
Confirmation right there. You're teaching everyone through your books. So look, it came true. Now we have
Hey,
something to
I
celebrate.
I like thinking about it like that.
Absolutely. So what I'm gonna do is because I can do this every day, all day, but today I want to make sure that one of your number one fans, Whitney, really dig deep into your story. Oh, she about to dig deep. So I hope you are ready. And
A little
I'm
bit. I'm
ready.
doing different. I'm going a different route than I normally do with the authors because your books are different than
Mhm.
the other authors that we have interviewed. Even though you guys, I noticed, are kind of like linked to each other, which is really cool, like your author
Mhm.
community, which I really appreciate it. But I really, yours is different. And I'm gonna tell you a funny story. When I was interviewing, we interviewed Alexander Warren.
Okay,
And she's
that's
like, "Oh, I
true.
love Christina C. Jones." I was like, "I don't love Christina C. Jones." I said, "I read her book," and I said, "She don't got no epilogue," and she just ended the story. I don't read any more of her stories. She goes, "No, you gotta continue reading it." So I said, "Fine." I'm like, because the storyline, like one thing I was like, I got so into your storyline. Then one of the books, she was like, "We're together," and I was there. I was like, what? How did this end like this? And I was so mad. But so you gotta keep on reading. I said, okay, fine. I'm gonna start reading like more of the series and just keep on. And then I'm like, okay, this one had an epilogue. This one got book 2. So then I started getting because I was so mad at you. I was like, why would she end like that? That's like pulling at my heart. So then I've been ever since July of this year, I just went through like your whole catalog from beginning to basically the end. I was just like a freaking I couldn't put them down. And I realized this is my only pretension since I read most like you intertwine your characters and the stories. Like
Mhm.
so even though you ended it, they might be in book 10 for somebody else and here they pop up
Yeah.
again. And I was like, okay, now I feel better. Cause I'm like, I want to know what the
So
else is gonna happen. And it's sometimes I could be confused. I'm like, don't I feel like I text you a couple of
yeah.
times. I'm like, wait, is this person? Am I losing it? Or I just want to also compliment you on your genius. How and I was telling T Quest how I thought how you came up with a whole community. Like we have Sugar Valley, you have the Mahogany Heights. I'm like, even the college. I'm like, yo, this was like genius. I was like, how did like I just thought that was I want to move there, by the way. I was like, I need
Me
to
too.
move with all these entrepreneurs who look like me, or all these couples. It was just like how you did it. Even your Austin of Connecticut, because I live in Connecticut, so I really was into that. But I'm like, wait, hold up, we should. So it was just I just thought that was genius. When I kept on reading your stories, it made sense because I'm like, oh, okay, you have to really know the beginning to remember
Mhm.
everything that's going on. So I just wanted to say kudos to you for that. That was
I
like at
appreciate
first
that.
I didn't
Thank
get it.
you. Thank you for keeping on reading. Thank you for not giving up on me.
At first I did. I was like, "Where's the epilogue? I need to know what else is going to happen. You can't leave me hanging." We all want to move to yes. Everybody wants to move to this community. It's just phenomenal, and I appreciate how you as an author, how you really uplift the Black community, and you highlight different types of careers. You don't just let the same people, like you think will be successful, you know what I'm saying, or have something going on. You have like, with urban grind, like the coffee house, the tattoo, the yoga. You have all little different types of things. But let's talk about some of these series of yours. I have them all sitting right here. I don't know which one's my favorite. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know which one's my favorite because every time I think I have a favorite, I read something else and I'm like, oh, I like this one too. Ooh, I like. But I have to give it to you. Genius. I love
that so much.
Girl, High Streak series. Girl. When I did I love Ace of Spades. Girl. The whole crazy, but the personalities of them, you know what I mean? Like from the first book, how you evolve, and I love how you touch people, then we go more into them in the second book. Oh my God, so good. But it was interesting because you touch on very touching matters. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like even in that series about what they did to women and children and stuff like that, and the struggles for male and female, and that's something that does happen in this community. And you touched upon it, but you still let them be heroes in the end. You know what I'm saying? How they overcame all those issues. I love that. And I also love your Sugar Valley. Like that really touched me as well because everybody's dealing with something. You know what I mean? Death, sicknesses, those are like natural things. But you brought it in such eloquent. It was so eloquent. I just loved it.
I appreciate it so much.
You guys listen to sweet stuff. I have a degree in culinary. My business is travel. I love food. So question, I was just like, you amaze me in all your writings. You really do. Like you never disappoint. You always step it up. You take your creativity to places I can't even verbalize, but you probably can because you're a writer. But it's just so amazing. I want to know, out of all your series, who's your favorite? Like the character. You have to have somebody who just pings at you a little bit.
I would probably say Ace and her family, her kind of story. And I might be biased because I'm actually working on something within that universe right now. Like what I'm writing right now is kind of involving her. And so I'm like, that's what I'm immersed in. So that's kind of where my head is. But those Vegas people, just thinking about the traumas and stuff that they've been through, not just the people who were involved with, the crime syndicate or whatever, but all of them, just thinking about the things that they had to overcome to even be able to have like any type of relationship, not even getting to a healthy relationship, but any any relationship at all. And just kind of to what they have to overcome internally in order to get to that place. I like exploring that. And as difficult as it is, because when you're talking about these things, like you said, these are real things. These are like, I never know whose hands my books are going to end up in. And so if it's someone who can directly relate to something like that, like I don't ever want them to go into this book and see this and it feels like, oh well, she just did that for a storyline, like there's like as if there's no care and consideration given to it. And so I try to really make sure that when I'm tackling those subjects and when I'm tackling kind of those type of topics, that I'm really taking my time and really trying to just infuse as much empathy as I can, so that it humanizes these people, even through what they're going through, even for someone like Ace, who, you know, used to be an assassin. I think, I don't know how much, hopefully that's not like too much of a spoiler for anybody who might pick something up, but she used to be an assassin. And someone could make the argument of, oh, she's irredeemable or she's evil or something like that, but no, she's still human, and that's not to make excuses for anything that she's done, but at the end of the day, she's still human, and she has done what she can to atone for those mistakes and to try to keep moving forward and to try to, you know be better than what she was, and through that be able to actually connect with people. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I would definitely think that if there, I wouldn't necessarily say that she's my favorite, but she definitely sticks with me. Like, I think about her often, even when I'm not actively writing stuff that she's involved in. I actually think about her often.
Yeah. But one thing I noticed about your writing and all your characters, and I'll encourage anybody who hasn't read your stories to start reading them, that you can never
Do I?
really judge a book. Please read all her stuff, okay? She's on Amazon. But you can, what I love about your writing is you can never really judge a book by its cover. You never
Mm.
really know what each character has involved. And I love that because the guy and the girl, I love how they both talk in their own process, but the girl has one possession of a guy and the guy has one of the girl, and it's
Mhm.
never what it really is. I love that because then you really have to start peeling back the layers, and that's something that I think as a human race we need to do. Like we read about these things in stories, we want to do prejudgment just about what we see instead of let's pull back these layers before we start judging or closing a door somewhere that we actually should walk through. So I really like how in all your stories you give that illusion of people like, oh, well, and then they found this a whole other person than what they
Yep.
assumed that person is supposed to be. So that is also amazing. But I like Ace too. I'm so biased. You know what? Because every single time, I know you have your YouTube. I don't listen to your YouTube because I started to, but then I start like having my own thoughts. So even so I have to like, I gotta read the story. And then sometimes I go back and listen after I read the
Yeah.
story because it
Yeah.
changes up my perspective. Even like the audio books. I have my own voices I make for characters. So I'm like, I can't listen to audiobook because it messes with my
Yep.
imagination to make things come to life. But I do think it's cool that you do that. Like you say, like, but I have to go back after I read to be like, okay, what is she saying now to get your
Well, because
perspective?
sometimes it definitely can change the perception, and that's why I really try hard not to give spoilers, but it's so hard not to. It's hard to talk about it without giving those spoilers, and it really can kind of alter your perception of it. But then when you listen to it after after you've read it, it's like, I think my thought processes probably make more sense afterwards.
It does. I always gotta go back. So let the people know she does have YouTube, guys. Go check her out. Read the books first. I personally say read the books, then go check out the YouTube because she always does it. And I think it's really cool because it's a way for you to really connect to us. Like we feel like, okay, I
Mhm.
know Christina. I know her thought process, and I just love her writing. And I have another question that I ask all the authors because you guys are all very explicit in the sexual scenes in these books. So, is this from like personal experience? Is this some research? Let us know because this stuff,
um.
every last one of them, even how you detail them, are
Mhm.
totally different. But I was like, let's the community in on all these secrets.
Well, I just honestly, yes, some of the stuff is personal experience, but often it's really just like sex works how it works, right? Like that's just it. And so a lot of times for me, it's taking these two individual people and bringing their personalities into it, their personality and what their relationship has been, or lack of relationship has been, and just kind of seeing how those two things work together, or how they're going to clash with each other, and that kind of helps determine what the chemistry is going to be, so that even though it's literally the same thing, four times, for 3 or 4 times in each book, depending on the length, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it helps it to feel different because everybody, even though it's the same action, no two people are going to do it exactly the same way. And so it's just a thing of letting their unique personalities and everything just kind of flow together with it. It's actually much harder for me to write those scenes now for that reason, because I want to make sure that it doesn't, like, I don't want it to sound the same. Like, I don't want it to feel like, okay, I'm this far into the book, it's time for one of these. I'm this far into the book, it's time for one of these. I don't ever want it to feel like that, but I'm at like 63 projects or something like that. And I mean, I feel like I've written it about most of the ways it can be written. I've done it. And so trying to make sure that it stays fresh and all of that every time, it's actually a little stressful. It's actually a little stressful. I used to look forward to it. I don't as much anymore. Um, and I think that it's just kind of a symptom of, like I said, having written so many books. But that's also me just needing to get over myself, because who's going to remember a random scene from the middle of the third book I wrote and then read book 50 like Christina? Now, I read and he this sounds exactly like when so and so did it to so and so in this other book. Like, nobody, who's gonna do that? Like, nobody's gonna do that. And so it's honestly kind of it's just a me thing. Um, I don't want to call it a perfectionist tendency, because I don't believe that I am a perfectionist, but I do have those little quirks when it comes to my writing for it, stuff like that. And so, but ultimately, like I said, it really is just about letting those two different people in, letting the imagination run wild, and also their, like I said, their different personalities, and kind of seeing how it works to create whatever chemistry they're going to have with each other.
Good.
Okay.
I will say that it's funny to me now. It was not funny to me then. But my very first book, I wrote all the sex scenes, and then I took them all out because I was afraid of, oh my God, what if somebody from my church like reads this and like thinks bad of me, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was after, and it took me a minute. Like, I had to really kind of come to terms with that. And then I put them all back in, uh, because it was like, I feel like writing is my gift. Like, if I had to name anything, I feel like writing is my gift. And I don't want to diminish my gift because I'm concerned about what people are going to think. I feel like if God didn't want me to be doing it, He wouldn't have. This is year 7. I feel like He would have made Himself clear by now. He has made Himself very clear in other ways in my life when I was doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. Like,
Yeah.
He has no problem making
Keep on
Himself
writing
very
them,
clear.
girl.
And so,
I'm
if
glad you
if
put them
if
back.
right, if I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, He would have let me know by now. So.
Quest, you have something to say?
Well, you know me, I always have something to say. I just want to let you guys have that connection and have that bond because, when it comes to people being a fan of your work, you really want to give them time to like have that one on one with you. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to piggyback on a couple of things that you mentioned like earlier when it came to your YouTube clips and stuff, right? And when you said she was hesitant to like watch or listen because this, that, and the third. And it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like as readers of books, once you realize it's going into movie form, you're just like, oh man, now who was going to play so and
Yeah.
so? They better not mess it up or anything, and what
Yeah.
parts are going to leave out, what parts are going to put in. So it makes it uncomfortable. Like, are they going to do it justice? Or are they
Yep.
going to, just ruin the whole vision I had in my head? But sometimes you definitely have to take that chance, and also when you're saying something about like the sex scenes in your books and how you don't want to really duplicate them, and yes, there's so many different things when it comes to sex in positions in scenarios,
Mhm.
but at the same time it's still the same type of movements to a certain
Yep.
degree. So it does get really nervous, but Zane and all them, they definitely use their imagination.
Yeah. So.
That it's kind of the same thing like in Disney movies. If you really look and dissect them, a lot of
Mhm.
the same scenarios, scenes, characters, the way they are, is all duplicates. But you don't really realize that because at the end of the day, it's not really about that. It's just all about the quality of the work in the stories
Mhm.
and
And story.
scenarios
Yep.
and then when you're mentioning about the church people, you're a little hesitant with what you put out there, you know, and I totally understand because me being an entertainer and like a music artist and a writer myself, I used to be hesitant with a lot of things I do, even when it comes to posting things on social media. They're like, well, you're an entertainer, you can be funny. I'm like, I understand that, but you got to realize my audience and my followers are very diverse and I want to be me, but I still want to be professional and respectable. But at the same time, you can't not be you because this is your
Exactly.
job, this is your profession. You have to get it out there. And all due respect, auntie, evangelist, deaconess, or whatever, this is my job, and I have to make sure I am here for my fans, my listeners, and my readers. And all
Yep.
due respect, you know what I mean? So I definitely want to commend you on that. And before you guys get back into another sisterhood moment, I just want to bring it back because you got to realize you have your fans and your readers listening. But what about the ones who don't know? You know, that don't know you or about your books. You guys have to bring it back to the beginning. Like, what made you even pick up the pen to even start writing books?
Oh man, I was so sick. Like to actually start, I've been writing before that. Like I was writing when I was a kid and stuff,
Mhm.
but to actually publish, I was pregnant. And with both pregnancies, I just got so sick, like to the point that I, no exaggeration, thought that I was dying. And
Mm,
I needed something to like tether me to the world. And I'm laughing about it, but it was like I can laugh about it now because the the baby is 8 years old, so I can laugh about it now. But I needed something to like to keep me grounded and keep me like connected to reality. And so I started writing, and I was able to like I had this story in my head of these different people, and I was a huge fan of Eric Jerome Dickey, Terry McMillan, Elin
mhm.
Harris, all those, you know, kind of foundational Black authors to me. Um, and they would have these cast of characters, and you know what I mean, and all of that. So that was what I wanted to do. And it's like, okay, if I'm going to do this, that's what I want to do. And
I
so I ended up writing What Was Love and Other Things. And that was the story that I took all the sex scenes out of and then put back. But yeah, it's like, it was born kind of out of a necessity. Like I need to do something because I wasn't working at the time, or I wasn't working outside of my home at the time. And, you know, I had how old was Izzy? Izzy was like 2 years old. My older daughter was
mm,
about 2 years old at the time. And, you know, I needed something to keep me from just laying in bed in the dark all day. Like I needed, you know, I needed everything that I could to kind of keep me connected and keep me grounded. And so I really credit, you know, I credit that a lot. And baby girl was born in 2012. She was born October 2012, and then I published for the first time the next year.
beautiful, beautiful. She's a Libra.
She is a Libra. I
Okay,
had
just
to think
making
about it for
sure.
a second.
Just
I had to
making
think about it for a second to make sure. Yeah, she is.
Okay.
Yes, Miss Ponder had some great comments earlier when she was saying basically you're like the Black Hallmark. And I always say
Hmm.
that all the time. I said reading these books are like the Black Hallmark because when you can't see yourself on TV, like I'm a helpless romantic. You
Hmm.
can't see yourself on TV. At least we can read it in the book. And I'm glad that you didn't take out the sex scenes because at the end of the day, that's our reality. I know you're
Yep.
married. I'm a married woman. We're going to have sex. Even if we weren't married, we're women, they're male. It's going to happen. No one's perfect
Yep.
because none of us are God. We're all humans. So intimacy is very important. And to pick up what you
Absolutely.
said earlier, none of your sex scenes sound like copycats because the characters are different. So even if they're
Yep.
doing the same thing, their personalities are different, so their sex scenes seem differently. So
That's part of my pep talk to myself.
you have to say that to yourself because even if they're doing the exact same thing, we're looking at it through the character's eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a whole different experience because they have different personalities. So, you know, if someone has an accent, well, I don't know what he's doing, but like, you know, so it's all, I'm just glad they're all great looking people from what you described. That would be funny if someone was a hot mess. That would be hilarious. But I do have a question for you.
Okay.
My question is, Are you considering yeah. Are you considering like doing any stories based off of like even your characters now that they're together or married and
Mhm.
continue or are like a married couple? Because I like for I said earlier, I'm a married woman. I'm a helpless romantic. Most of the books are people getting together. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And finding love. Are you ever going to like write a book about somebody who's already together but going through, rekindling or, setting a spark? Because for instance, like I've been with my husband for 15 years now. It's 15 years now
Mhm.
since I was 19. And I always tell people the 19 me and the 30 plus me ain't the same person.
Yes. Yes.
we're I look the same, but we evolve. We're supposed to. And I always
Yes.
wonder when I read a lot of these love books, is anybody gonna ever decide to write on, just a happy black couple or going through stuff like in real life, but they're still together? Are you interested in doing something like that?
Um.
You can be honest.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out. Trying to get my words together. My thought on that is that the things that would be noteworthy, like for a couple, like the things that would be, like, I guess, entertaining to read, are to me things that feel very over the line, I guess, like in a marriage. Like you said, like I've been with my husband a long time too. We're coming. We just passed our 12-year anniversary, and so we've been together a long time. The things that we fight about and the things that we like beef about are so boring. Like it is so boring. Like it's real stuff. It's real life stuff, and it's stuff that most other couples probably go through. But if I was reading the book of our life, I would be like, oh my god, like you just put, if you don't like the way he put the toilet paper on the roll, just turn it the other way, girl. Like, why am I like why is there a book about this? Just different little stuff like that. But the stuff that, when you start getting into things like infidelity, the loss of children, just like the kind of more serious things that couples go through, especially married couples and couples that have been together for a long term. Um, I don't know that my heart can take it, just personally, because when I'm with these characters and when I'm with these couples, like I'm very immersed in them, especially if it's like a longer project, like a longer book. I'm very in there with them. And I feel like saying it out loud feels really crazy. Saying it out loud feels really crazy. But I just don't know that I, as a married woman, want to immerse myself in a rocky marriage. And like, again, like I
It
said,
doesn't have
like
to be
saying it out loud
rocky.
sounds
You have
crazy,
to think.
but
Like, what if you did like a love language story? Like, what if the guy's love language is quality time and the woman's love language is gifts? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But they don't realize it. You know what I'm saying? They're married, they love each other, but
yeah,
they're not speaking the same language. So figuring that out,
exactly.
and then like little taller stuff. Because in real life, most that's why other women like that's a good question. That's a good point. Because a lot of
Yeah,
your readers probably are in relationships, but we all
yeah.
evolve. So sometimes we still want to see like. Let me see. I was going through that same thing. I was about to put him out because he didn't take out the trash, but you know what? He really got it together, and then we made up. And because that's one thing I feel like we don't see. We see
Hmm.
people always get together, but we don't see like the little stuff that we actually go through and still see a happy ending in the
Yeah.
whole scenario. Like even if you took one of your characters and just kind of kept like, okay, now they're married. Let's see the little tit tat they get to. Even like the ones who work together, whatever the case may be.
I
Nothing
can
has
see
to
that.
be, tragic. But like you said, even though it's corny, but we're corny women, so we still want.
I'm I
Like,
am
what? My
incredibly
husband
corny.
didn't take the trash out. He did not put the toilet tissue. Like I want him. This is exactly what I'm going. So something
I'm
like when I talk to my girlfriends, that stuff that I'm like, yeah, you know what? I
Yeah.
wonder if somebody will write something about us. Yes, evil self stories. Yes, good, Miss Ponder. Yes.
I will stay open to it, as always. Like, I'm gonna write, what the characters give to me. But I don't know. I don't know, because I feel like if I did something like that, like how long would it be? Like, I feel like it would be, like something short
Forever.
and cute, like maybe for my website or something like that. And maybe if I framed it like that, I would be able to kind of wrap it around my head more. But if I like, I don't know, like I feel like in order for it to be like a story, like a book, like there's gonna be something wrong. And maybe that's just me. You know what I mean? Like maybe I just need to approach it from a different angle in my headspace. So I'm definitely not gonna count it out. And the way that you explained it, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Either way, I'm gonna read your work. Either way, I enjoy your work.
Absolutely. And my thing is, as like I said, like I write it myself, sometimes it may not be the time for you to do it.
That
But
too.
even
Yeah.
when you have a moment to yourself and you're just writing, not even for the book, just in general, just write it because eventually it may come together later. Like, you know what? It just hit me. Because, like you
Yep.
said, even the people that are listening right now, they're in relationships, they are married, they need something to connect to, just like with the movies, how they don't have a lot of black love movies out there.
Yeah.
They're yearning for something to connect with. And even if you think it's corny, corny is a good thing because it's just
Yes.
real life situation. Think about it when you look on TV and stuff. The way they portray our culture is either too cheesy or too
Mhm.
left field. So who's
Yep.
going to be that common medium to actually show us what the average woman, average black family, and average black marriage is really going through and stuff? Because believe it or not, that story for something for us to connect to, we are still searching for a lot of things to connect to. That be like, you know what? This is my life. This is me. This is what I'm going through. Corny,
Mhm.
cheesy, or whatever. I remember there was a mother that she was like, I follow you on social media. You're so awesome. I understand why you won't follow me back. I said, why do you say I won't follow you back? Because all I do is post my kids. That's my life. And I'm like, you know what? Right. So I'm not
I like
following
it.
you back, but and I really did it. But I'm like, if that's your life, that's your life, and it is okay.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's so many other people out there. And believe it or not, that one book where you just writing for fun, even it's like a journal, since you're a wife
Mhm.
and stuff, and you put it together, might actually be your best selling book.
Even with your
That's true.
kids too, because honestly, Christina, I'm in all your characters. Every last one of them is me.
Mhm.
I'm every single character in the book because the chef, Ace, I'm like, that's me. When the Valley, that's me. I put myself in all the freaking. My husband's like, you be in. I said because I just love love, but I always.
Yeah.
That's why I like when they're continuing because I'm like, I want to see where they go because
Yeah.
when you've been involved with someone for so long and you don't see that, like I said, even here in my state. He did a book about the Connecticut. So I was like, yes, what is he going to talk about here? You don't see that many young people who've been together, who look like us, who's married and, have kids and still a great union. Definitely up here on the East Coast. South, yeah, but you don't see it like that on the East Coast. And to emerge into a book that's like, a fantasy, but somewhat a reality. Like, even though they didn't get together, I'm like, oh, I remember this time. But, so that's why I always ask. I was like, I wonder if she would ever just take it. And then I saw that you were married and she has kids. I wonder if she just would take that and spin it into like a fairy tale type thing where the kids got on my nerve. My husband ain't responded, going through that. And then he's like, why did I try to do this for her? And then like go back and forth with like the thing just because at the
Yeah.
reality, we still make it last at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
we're still in those relationship stage, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I love all your work. I do have a question for you though.
Okay.
One of the viewers did write, are you going to add more to the Connecticut Kings? Are you going to extend that? Because I did
Yes.
love that place too. Oh, you heard that lady? She said she's going to add some more to
Yeah.
that. I saw one of those questions.
Yeah, we're planning for spring. I've been talking to Love, and she was actually just yesterday telling me more about kind of what she has going with her characters and stuff like that. But we're aiming for spring. I actually don't know who my characters are going to be anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, when
And
somebody can name
so, but
Whitney who looks like me can be a character. I'm like, that girl
I
sounds
don't,
so
I don't,
familiar.
you know, I don't think I have a Whitney. I don't
See?
believe I have a Whitney.
Look at
So
my pictures
hey,
right now so you can describe this. And I'm like, this girl sounds so much like that. I'm in the story. And I live in Connecticut. But I'm glad you brought up Love because I'm reading her stuff now too.
okay,
And I realized you guys do like when I just started reading her this week. And I realized y'all be using this like you take
Yeah.
each other's characters. I was like, I know I read this. Who I'm reading right now? Divine. And I know Divine is in the King
Oh,
series.
Mr. Indeed.
Yes, Mr. Chocolate Locket. I'm like 6'4", wait, 6 feet 4 inches. How she talk? I'm like, I read about her because when I first read, I'm like, yo, I know this Divine, but I just started reading her stories because I just finished yours, so I was just going
Yeah.
through everybody. But when I read, I try to read their whole catalog before I go to somebody else, and I was like, I know this guy. And then when he said something about he's going back to Brooklyn, I was like, the Connecticut. I'm like,
Yeah.
I wonder if they talk to each other. And then I started
He's
seeing.
mentioned he's mentioned in this, I know for a fact he's mentioned in Determined Possession, because
Mm-hmm,
Ramsey, when he gets to, like, they're at the wedding, they're at Jade and Trent's
mm-hmm,
wedding in Determining Possession, and he mentions that Asmir is one of, like, this group of guys that he gets
yeah.
called over to, like, hey, and he's like, this group of, like, superstar guys. So yeah, but we definitely, and I remember, like, I remember this, and this was years ago. This was years ago. I remember, because we're real life friends. Like, we're not just peers.
Wait, hold
Like,
on. Are
that's
you
my
reading
for
these
real friend.
comments? Do you see what people are saying on the comments?
Me?
Yeah.
Do I go into the chat?
No, it should be on the screen because so many people are saying how they found love through you, and I could see it. So I was wondering if you see that,
I
and
see
that's
them now.
I
yeah.
found Cece through love, and then someone else put I found love through CCJ.
Yeah, I'm over here. I was able to get into the chat now. You said it should be on my screen though.
It should be
Mhm.
under, yeah, it should be pulled up on a screen while you're looking at us,
Okay.
and
It's
then
because they're saying some beautiful things, and I wonder if you see it.
you
This
comment.
might be it. It might be something I've done. Hold on. Let
Okay.
me tap.
But yeah, what they're saying is that some of them found you through love, and
Okay.
then the others
Yeah,
are
that's
saying
my
they
boo.
found love through you, and that's the one thing we were talking about earlier, on the other interviews with authors, is how you guys have your own community,
Yeah.
and everyone's fans, each other fans. And the one thing I love about it, because you guys are all Black women, no disrespect to anybody else, but it's just beautiful to see that for sure.
Yeah. And I do see it now. The 8-year-old that had me about to die, she had my tablet before me and she had my screen, like, zoomed in. So I couldn't,
So
that's
I
probably
do
why
have
I
a
couldn't figure out
community.
that name thing earlier
I was
too.
wondering if you were seeing them, because usually the guests will reply to what they see, and you haven't
Yeah,
said
I don't.
anything. I'm just like,
That's like because they're repeating those questions. I was like, I wonder if she sees what they're saying. But like you were saying earlier, I noticed that you do that. Even your the college, you and Alexandra, I
Yeah,
think Warren
Blackwood.
talked about, like y'all say Blackwood College. I'm like, they must all really talk to each other
Yeah.
because they're all saying the same community, which I need
Oh,
to be a part of this
and get
community.
and I'm getting myself mixed up. I said Blackwood. It's Blakewood. Blakewood is
Hmm.
the college. Blackwood is the city. And
Yeah.
people from Blackwood established Blakewood. Like, there's, like, a whole history
And
and
then they
stuff
got the
to it in my
Mahogany
head.
Heights where I need to move to, or Sugar Valley. I might move there because I like the scenery. And take the drive through. But I think that's wonderful how you ladies come together and use characters from each other's book, co-write with each other. I know that you was doing a seminar. I just found out, like you and Alexander Warren, a couple of ladies were like doing like seminars and stuff like that. You guys still going to think about continue
Oh,
doing it?
the Girl Have You Read event. We typically have been doing the Girl Have You Read event, typically an in-person event. And we weren't able to do it this year because of COVID. But I'm hoping, I'm I'm hoping that eventually we'll be able to get back to it. But our next one is probably going to be virtual as well. And I'm already kind of thinking through who, like, what authors we're going to invite and everything this time. But we want to really take the opportunity to, like, that, since the world is becoming more and more virtual, we want to kind of take the opportunity and take advantage of that, and really maximize on it, and really take advantage of it in all these different ways. Now that there's all these different avenues and stuff available, new businesses being started just around all of it. And so we definitely do plan on doing it again. We don't have anything concrete planned yet, but we definitely plan on doing it again because that event is one of the things is just one of the events that we look forward to every year. That event, which I'm part of the hosting team for that event, and so that's one of them. But stuff like Indie Love, where I can just show up with my books,
Hmm.
and so that's fun. But Indie Love and Sister not Sister Girls. Sister Girls Book Club is who hosts it, but Behind the Pen that she does in New York. I think she's been talking about like kind of expanding, but I'm not sure.
What is
Um
that called? Behind the pen?
Behind the Pen. Well, no, they did like a satellite thing in Atlanta is what I think I'm thinking about. But Behind the Pen itself has been in New York. I did that event and that was a great time. Um I've done an event in Chicago with Book Euphoria. Those are always good times, but I love doing the book events. Like that is always like one of the highlights, getting to travel and getting to see people, and I'm hoping that eventually we'll be able to do stuff like that again.
Yeah, I totally
Is
get it
what
with
I'm
this
hoping.
world. The event, I totally get it with everything that's going on with this world. Because
Yeah.
I was telling Alexandra House when we interviewed her how I was supposed to go to her house party that she had this year, and it got
Yep.
canceled
I was
because of
supposed to.
COVID.
Yep.
And I was devastated. I was like, oh my God. And she's like, well, we're going to move to next year. But next year I have a conference because, I do travel. So that's
Yeah.
my business. And I have my traveling conference the same week. I'm like, oh my God, you're killing me. But I was pretty done. So I totally understand. But I can't wait to actually meet you ladies in person again and go to some of these events because
Yeah.
I got to learn and meet new readers as well who
Yeah.
yes, who have the same mindset and read just as much as I do. So it's a beautiful thing, and I just want to also say thank you for your work and how you make us feel as women. Even though I'm married, I still love the love stories and
Oh
go into
yeah.
them like yes, yes, all their different backgrounds and the creativity of it all. But I was wondering, how do you do how this research? Because you have tattoo artist, yoga specialist, florist, book. Got the mountain man, the winery. You got so many different people. We ready? Oh yeah, she's in New Orleans. How
Oh,
do you
that's
come up
Indie
with all
Love.
these
Yeah.
different things?
Well, it involves a whole lot of like deep diving on Google and on YouTube, watching videos of people like going through the winemaking process and reading blogs that people have done, and all of that. Like I'll spend like I remember I was writing when I was writing I Think I Might Love You. Like one of the characters adopts like a stray cat.
Hmm.
I spent 3 hours researching cat food, and I think I mentioned the cat food like one time in the whole book. And it's not even like a detailed mention. Like like it's very random. But the, as frustrated as I get with myself for spending all of that time on those deep dives, I feel like it adds to the story just to be able to layer in that detail and being able to like actually knowing what I'm talking about. I mean, of course, if some some person who is an actual winemaker might read that book and be like, "Oh my god, all of this is wrong. This girl don't know what she's talking about." But as much as I can, as much
Yeah.
as I can, I like to make sure that the stuff is right. Like if I'm going to put it down on the page, I really do want it to be right and I really do want it to be representative I because these things are interesting to me, and if they're interesting to me, I feel like they're going to be interesting to someone else. And if I can layer in something that helps to teach someone something or helps to spark someone's interest in something and that leads them to go do more research and learn more about it on their own, I don't want to be leading someone in the wrong direction. And so it's fun, kind of spending that time doing that research. And I actually learn, I learn a lot myself. Like I'm a fountain of useless trivia. I was on my quiz bowl team when I was in high school, and so and that was my specialty Do not point to me for the math questions. Do not point to me for the science questions. Do not point to me for the history questions. But if you need some random stuff, those lightning rounds, I was on it. I had it.
Tell us about your new book that you just released this week.
Oh, that's it's the chase for me. So the way that actually came about it's is that book is at the beginning parts of that book are actually a combination of two different projects that I have been working on. What happens to me a lot is I'll have an idea for a project and I'll start it and I'll get like a decent amount into it, but then I just lose steam. And so I'll have to put it down and come back to it. I actually can't remember the last time that I've been able to just write something straight through it. And obviously, and I've just let the world know that I can't snap. I can't actually make this sound. But but what typically happens with me is I'll start writing something and then I have to kind of put it down and come back to it later. Like when I come back to it later, whatever mental block or whatever I had, it'll be gone. And so I had these two like really, really funny different openings that I kept thinking about. Like I wanted to be able to use that stuff because like whenever I would think about it, it would make me laugh just thinking about it. And then I want to say at least three times this year, I've gone back to those scenes. Like when it was time for me to figure out, okay, what am I going to write next? I've gone back to those scenes. And this time I was like, you know what? I'm sticking with this. I'm about to make this work because I have been lately trying to get off of being so ruled by my muse. It's like, no, this is what I'm writing. Like I'm in charge. Like I'm not like we're gonna say we're gonna write this and we're gonna stick to it, or we're gonna how about this? We're gonna delete it since you don't want to write it. And so when I tell myself that, it's like, okay, we go let's write it then. So January, to actually get to talking about the story. January is a nurse and she is actually going back to school for her continuing education courses and different things like that. And she has been in this on again, off, on, on and off again relationship that she has finally, like for real, let go of. And she's just about at the year anniversary of having let this go. And she has been very focused on school and all of that, but her friend wants to set her up on a basically a blind date, and so she goes on a blind date and ends up I'm trying to say this without too many spoilers, but she ends up running into somebody who she had a run in before, a really hilarious run in before. That run in is actually what I was like, I gotta keep this, like I gotta use this. But she ends up having this run in with him, and this this run in is like the second in a series of run-ins that just get kind of progressively worse. It's like first they're going really really good, and then they start going really really bad, like they start going in the opposite direction. And but eventually they end up they make it work, like I
Life
don't
in
think
life.
that is too much of a spoiler to say that they end up together at at the end of the book. That is one thing that's a constant for me, even if they're not necessarily, like, sometimes they may not have even necessarily said we're boyfriend and girlfriend, but to in my mind they're together and they're going to be
Yeah, I
together.
noticed.
And like I'm not
That's why I wasn't your friend and Nikki. I'm like, what? Let's be together. That's the end. I'm like, no, she did not get to the end. I was gonna jump through that book to find you. So,
but
but
that's
I
reality.
understand
That's
now.
that Yeah, like that's reality. And I want us to kind of, like, even though I am, I'm married woman, two kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was never something that I like aspired to. Like this was the life that was, this was the life that I was supposed to have, but it was not something that I necessarily like aspired to. And
Mhm.
I don't think that it was necessary for me to have like a full life and for me to be whole and be who I was. And I think that a lot of times, especially in romance, it's like this idea is kind of latched on that if they're not married with kids and if they're not married or engaged by the end of the book, then that's not a real ending, or there's no certainty that they're going to be together. But I'm like, there's no certainty just because they're married with kids. What makes you
That's
think that's
true.
certain? What makes
That's so
that
true.
any, you know what I mean? What makes that any less certain than anything else? And so I kind of try to gauge it by the couple. Like there's certain couples that it would just be completely unrealistic for me to, for me to say, oh, well, they skipped off into the sunset holding hands, and he's got a baby carrier on his back and they just got engaged. Like
You
that
know what's
wouldn't be
funny?
realistic for them, but then there's couples that is completely realistic for. And a lot of times my books only span like a very short time period. Like this last one, it spans a period of maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And so where it ends is like it's a healthy it's a healthy end for them, and if the couple have only known each other for 3 months, then I mean, maybe there are couples, and I've written couples that have said I love you in that span of time, but for a lot of people that's just honestly not realistic. And I wonder
Mhm.
sometimes if it's clear how little time has passed, because sometimes it I might have written 80,000 words, which is like a 250-page book, and it's only been a month. And so for the reader, it's like I've invested I've read 250 pages of these folks. Where is the love at? Like where where is the I love you here? But in terms of like of it really being realistic for the couple, that may not be that may not really be feasible for them. And so I really try to let the couples lead there, but I do know it's frustrating and I understand.
I
I
get it now, though. I
understand
had to
why.
keep on reading. I had to keep on reading your stories to understand it. The first book I read, it didn't have something like, okay, but I get it because, like you said, the one reason I really love your story is that you really do get into the characters. You really
Mhm.
do get into the relationship. And I'm not talking about the intimacy part. That makes it, of course, it makes it, oh, okay. But I love to really figure out who they are as individuals. And most of your stories in life, it's just communication. If they communicate, they won't have
Yeah.
to have the problems. And that's with everybody. But I really appreciate that. But I wanted to piggyback on something that you said just a few moments ago about end relationships and like how they might end. Because in your book in Sugar Valley, which I really, really like,
Mhm.
the point of it all is
Mhm.
when her husband or ex-husband there, but it
Leon.
was really, I like the relationship because even though it was nothing horrible that happened, she was a different person, but this new guy had to bring that, out of her, and she had to
Mhm.
understand the whole dynamic. So you're absolutely correct when it comes down. Every relationship has a different story, has a different
Mhm.
ending, and some of it is just we're going to be together. I'm just an invested reader, so I'm like, what's going to happen next? But with that, when you broke that down with her and her ex-husband, it tied it all together. And in a lot of your books, like I said, I noticed that even though it's one series and it's a different series, the series still kind of go together because
Yep.
the characters come back in there. So I get it, but keep doing what you're doing because for me personally, um, I love the background more than I do even like the sex. I just want to see who are these people? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What makes them together and how um she and he brings the best out of each other. And that's the beautiful thing about relationship. Your partner should be able to bring the best out of you and vice versa, the best out of that person. And that's one thing I love by the end of the story. We have that whole okay, they're whole because they have that
Yep.
missing link and how beautiful love is and how if we figure out how to communicate with that other
Yep.
person, we will really be everybody will have happy, healthy lives with or without marriage, with or without kids. Because even
Yep.
though we're, be married with kids don't mean it's healthy. It doesn't mean it's happy,
Yep.
so it's a different dynamics. But I really do appreciate how you really invest in your characters because I tell people more than the sex scene, I want to read about the characters. Like I want to know
Yes.
what they
That
think,
depth
how
and
they move. It is your writing is very phenomenal. And like when you said that earlier, it made me think of that character in the book. And I was like, well, she was still really cool for him. He still loved her, but it was a time where it has passed. She was in a
yes.
different situation. And I love that you bring the darkness of people
Mhm.
out and turn it into light to let them know that we all have bruises, we all have burns, we all go through something.
Yep.
We just have to be vulnerable enough to allow somebody in that can help us heal.
Yep. And I know what happens to me a lot when I'm writing is I'll be writing a certain I'll be writing a certain story, and I'm trying to think of an example, and of course, because I'm trying to talk about it, I can't think of any example. But I'll be writing something with like a certain storyline. Like there'll be, I'll use grief as as the broad example, where vaguely it's about the character's grief, but something else is there's something more happening. There's something else happening. But what I've discovered is that sometimes I'll have those little pockets of different subject matter that happen in one story, and then in the next story it'll be like a big part of the plot. Like it's something that is like, okay, I needed to write this first to kind of get my feet wet a little bit, so that once I got to this other story, it's like, okay, now we're really about to dig into this. We're really about to tackle this, whether that's, you know, someone coming from an abusive relationship, or someone, it can be something like that, or it could be something as simple as somebody, you know, doing a lot of research on what flowers they're going to get for someone, and then the next book there's a florist, and the next book it can be even simple things like that. But I've started to kind of try to embrace that frustration when I feel like, because what I'll do is, well, I just wrote a book with somebody that did that, and now I'm going to be writing another one, and I'm just going to be the girl who writes everybody does flowers, in this book, and I have to kind of pep talk myself out of that too, because it's like, or this was just preparing you to write this other story, and it's just going to be what it is. Maybe that's just your theme this year. Maybe all your books this year are just about flowers. Like
Right. You
maybe
have some
that's
good
just what
stories.
it
So
is.
I learned some stuff about your flowers. So I wonder if that's what that really means. The bouquets and this, it was interesting, but I understand where you're coming from. So my question, I think you just answered it, was when you write a story, sometimes you could be writing and then like another story comes out of that story for you.
Hmm.
So you'll be like,
Or
oh, this is
sometimes
good.
it'll help me figure something out, like through writing this other story. It kind of helps me figure out what was blocking me. Like if I had started something else and had to put it down, now that I've written this, it's like, oh, maybe I can use this story element to help me get out of whatever. Like, so a lot of times they all really do kind of work together. Even sometimes I don't notice it as it's happening. It just kind of all builds on each other.
Well, let us know what we can look forward to. Are you having anything else drop this year, or is everything's coming in 2021?
I this year I wanted to have two more releases, but I my therapist this morning was like, "Girl, let's be real." So I will probably have one more release this year, and that is going to be in Ace's book. She goes through and she finds her sister. That book is actually going to be Ace's sister, and I have that, and I'm going to do another, like one of the gift box things. It's going to be around the Love Sisters, and I want to do, well, I already have them, so I need to do it. But I want to do holiday ornaments featuring the Heights, and so I have to put that together and make those available or whatever for people, especially since we're coming up on holiday decorations, and
Mhm.
so I need to make it happen. But that's kind of all I have going on in terms of like business wise this year. I really want to, with everything happening, and I've really pushed myself this year um to not let myself be stopped as much as I would have, as much as I, would have, I won't say would have rather, but as much as my reflexes were telling me to, I kind of made sure to push through that. But now that we're kind of approaching the end of the year, I want to, make Christmas special for my kids, and I've got their birthdays and everything coming up, and so I want to make sure that I'm taking time to focus on that, because it's been a busy year, even with everything, it's been a busy year, and I want to make sure that I am not overextending myself and making sure that I'm being present, that I'm being present for the people who, for the people who I love and love me back. I need to make sure
Mhm.
that I'm present for them. So I'm going to try to kind of bring it in.
T Quest?
Beautiful. I'm sorry. I'm just loving you guys' dynamic. And I just hope that your fans and stuff don't think I'm like a boring co-host. It's just you see a dynamic happening, a bonding, like you just gotta let it rock. And since, like I said, since she's such an ultimate fan, I just want her to do her thing. But it's just a few things I wanted to chime in on when it comes to the comments on the side, right? I'm loving the fact that there's so many people invested in you as an author, and they respect you not just as an author but as a woman, a
Yeah.
businesswoman, entrepreneur. And it's a beautiful thing because I've talked about this so much on my show about breaking that stereotype that black women can come together and love one another and
Oh,
support one
yeah.
another and build together. I'm like, no, that's what they want us to think, but
Yep.
when you do your research, there's so many of us, like when it comes to all the women in the author community, you guys are a bond. And like I said, your fans are each other fans. And one of your fans stated something about how they're shocked that a lot of people don't know about the indie authors. I'm like, well, that's in any field, to be honest. Most people when they're on the go, they'll quickly go to a fast food restaurant, not realizing the little diner right there, they can make the food fast, but it's gonna be better than that McDonald's.
Yep.
Or when you be quick to go to a department store before you go support one of your friends that's probably selling the same exact thing with the same type quality.
Yep.
It's just that people don't take the time to do their research. People don't take the time to support people in their culture. They're not looking beneath the surface, behind the surface. They're just right there, and you wonder why. That's what I always tell people. If you genuinely are a fan of someone, or just like with Whitney's Escape Travel Agency, if she did a great job booking your trip or something, support
Tell
her.
everybody.
You know
Tell
what I mean?
everybody.
Share the page, click like, write recommendations. Like I said with my app, I'm like, I love the reviews. It just reminded me that you enjoy what I do and that you're
Hmm.
still here for me. Just like when it comes to this, a lot of people, even though you guys do have a great span of readers, there's still
Hmm.
so many out there that don't even know who you are, but they
Yep.
should know who you are. Just like I said before, when I said when you were growing up, you said you want to be a teacher. You are teaching people. You know, you're teaching them.
I do.
You're like their go-to when they're reading. You're their escape. We talk about even on Winnie's podcast every Wednesday. So I'm telling people, if you genuinely love someone like you guys do, share each other's stuff,
Yep.
support one another, buy it, even for the holidays. Go buy the book for someone else that you know that it can touch
Yep.
their lives and bring happiness to them. We have to break the stereotype, and as you can tell, you guys are a whole community, but the community
Yep.
can always get bigger. And I just want to say I appreciate you, the other authors, the listeners, the supporters. There's no hate, it's all love. And that's why when she said that she has these authors, she want me to interview, I'm like, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to put it on my platforms, because this is what I be teaching all the time. And not to really dwell on that right there, I wanted to touch on something really quickly, then you guys can have your moment. You mentioned that something about your therapist, right?
Hmm.
Yes, and I just did a special on mental health. And we were talking about the importance of having a therapist, how it's not really a bad thing. It's very therapeutic, hence the word
Yep.
therapist. So if you can just take a moment to let's clear away from the book for just a second and
Hmm.
talk to people about the importance of having a therapist and how it's okay to go to them.
Oh, definitely. I will tell anybody, especially creatives, because this is something that my therapist is something that she mentioned to me, especially with creatives, especially with writers. You have so many other people in your head. You have so many other people in your head, so many things going on, for people, women who are business owners, and you have your family unit, and not just husband, kids, but if you're taking care of your auntie, if you need to go check on your grandmother, whatever else, we have so much going on, and she compared it to a computer, how you have so much stored in all these different places and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And going to a therapist helps you defrag. It helps you bring all these things together so that you can see it better, and so that you can kind of better understand what's happening in your head and better process that information. And it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. Um, like it's a very normal thing. Some people just have the resources to do
Mhm.
something about it, and there is not something to be ashamed of. My husband is actually the one who recommended. He could tell that I was not myself. He could tell that I was going through it, and he asked me as gently as he could, and he was like, I'm sorry, I'm promise I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm not trying to call you crazy or anything like that. But he was like, do you think maybe you need to talk to somebody? And I
Mhm.
was like, you know what? You're right. I do. And so I've been seeing a therapist for just over a year, because it was May of 2019 that I started. And I was able to find a black therapist. I've always seen her through telehealth, and so that's an option, especially for people who you might live in a small town or something like that, where maybe that's not available to you. I can't recommend enough therapy for black girls. They have a, what do you call it? Like a listing by state. There's
Mhm.
a directory. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mhm.
Not
They
really in
have
the
a
East Coast,
directory.
unfortunately.
Yeah, where you can, where you can kind of find who's in your state, and you can go to anybody in your state. That's the way the licensing works. You go to anybody anywhere in your state. But look for somebody, like I said, like if you are not in a city where you have access to that, or you're in a small town or something like that,
Mhm.
there's options for you. And if you have the resources, if your insurance will cover it, whatever else, I highly recommend taking advantage of it, and not waiting until it feels like an emergency. Like if you think that you might benefit from it, do it. And I mean, you'll be able to see pretty quickly, after a few sessions, like, you know what, this isn't really doing anything for me. This doesn't really work for me. Maybe that's just not the right thing for you, or maybe you might need to visit with a different therapist or whatever. But I definitely cannot recommend it enough. I feel like it has made me um, a better mother, a
Mhm.
better wife, a better friend, a better writer, to be able to just kind of learn better how to process my own feelings and how to better communicate. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. And that's why, like, I'm like, when I think about things like that, like, I'll drop that my therapist said all the time, because
Mhm.
I want to try to help normalize that. Like, it's not something to be ashamed of. I know for a lot of us, for black women, you're told to, well, just go to church, just take to the Lord in prayer. Well, the Lord in prayer helped sis over there get her psychology or psychiatry degree, so that she will be
Yes.
available to you. That's your prayer answered right there. Go to the go to the therapist. you
Let
know.
us know.
So I just, I try to do my part in whatever small ways to kind of contribute to normalizing it, because a lot of times I think that we kind of suffer in silence when we don't have to.
Hmm. That was beautiful. Well said. Well said. And I hope all the listeners out there take heed to that because, like T Quest and author Christina C. Jones was saying, it's okay not to be okay, because at the end of the day, we're all human. Life happens to all of us. That's my way of saying it's okay not to be okay. I'm like, I get it. Life happens. It happens to all of us. We're
Right.
all going to get sick. We're all going to have highs. We're all going to get low. We're all going to hurt. We're all going to love. We're all going to feel some of the same things in different
Yep.
aspects because we're human beings. And it's important to, get help when you need it. And then it's also important to support one another. And that's why when questions like, oh, something about authors, I'm like, I have a group of authors I would love for you to interview. Not just because I love your work, it's just also we have different platforms. And if I appreciate your work, why not be able to show other people and let them also
Yep.
appreciate your work as well? Because during this life that we're in, this pandemic and stuff like that, this has been my go-to. Like basically my therapy, my escape has been reading these love stories and just filling myself with positivity and love, and not watching everything that's going on around the world. It's like your little escape to have some type of safe haven within my own being, in my own community. And I just wanted to highlight you and let you know that I appreciate your work. Keep doing what you're doing, and I will definitely still follow you. I'll still support. I'm glad you have some new books, because I'm like, okay, but it helps me to read other people's too, because then I'm like, okay, I could go back and do stuff again. But I really do appreciate you taking time out your day to come here and on both our platforms, because she shares it, I share it, I put it on my YouTube. So hopefully we'll bring you a lot of revenue. And supporters to read. Like, oh, look at this! Like all these new people following me reading my books.
Thank you guys for being patient with me and coming back to me like, hey,
girl.
I'm doing it. You know, I'm like, did you talk to
I appreciate that because, like, I don't know what it is, but like they will not send me notifications from that page, and I know that's not really for the show or whatever, but I have to remember to go back and like to like I have to remember like have I checked that today? Like I have to physically like make sure that I remember, and I appreciate you not being like, man, she ain't serious. Let me.
Even if I wanted to be like that, I couldn't, because she hit me every few weeks. Have you heard back from her? I'm like, nope. Well, you need to reach out to her.
I said 3 times, just not right away, but she'll reply back. Just because I like to support people, and I like to support women who looks like me and women who are doing positive things. As an entrepreneur as well, I know how important it is to support and how to spotlight other people. And people do get busy, so I'm like, hey, I'm determined because I really think what you have and your product that you offer will really help other women. So yes, I was like, did you talk to her yet? She just responded back to me about one of her stories. She's probably online right now. Hit her up again so that we can just come in here and conversate. Because I could have been like, oh, let's conversate through here or something. But I was like, I wanted to have you on a big platform so that you could continue to do your work and continue to be inspired and just blossom, and hopefully your career just blows up. And I'm like, yeah, I know her. I've read all her stories.
Hey,
So. That was it.
I receive it. I receive it all.
And, I totally understand when it comes to being busy. I used to apologize to people. I'm so sorry to get back to you. I'm like, nowadays, like, look, we're all grown. We're adults. We have busy lives. If you don't hear back from me because I'm busy, and if you don't hear back from me and you see me post on social media, I have enough time to post my post, but I ain't got time to respond to you. If because when you respond to someone, they're gonna be waiting for a conversation. I have enough time to post. I have time to comment, but I ain't got that much time for whole conversation. So you have to wait till I'm free, and don't take nothing personal. Even when it comes to social media and Facebook and everything, they don't always send you your notifications. Even with me, sometimes I don't see my notification. I may get a random email, like so-and-so just messaged you on your fan page, or I have to really be on my desktop or laptop.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Look for my fan page. They be like, oh, you have 7 messages. I'm like, what the hell did you tell me this before?
Right. When you gonna tell me that?
Exactly. So it all depends on what device you're using and the notifications on which device. And then they have a separate messenger as well as page manager. So it's a lot. So I keep telling people, if you don't hear from people, even if you see them, you still don't hear from them. Sometimes it's an honest mistake. We're all adults. We got to stop dwelling on nonsense. The only time you should really be concerned is if it's already solidified that you're supposed to be meeting and waiting on them. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, life happens. So you just gotta relax. You know what I'm saying? And I want to piggyback off what Whitney said about supporting one another, because she's a great advocate of supporting one another. We just did her annual's Whitney's Escapes annual women's retreat. And every year it's normally out the country at like an island, or you know what I'm saying, like a resort.
And it's traveling so much.
Girl, I'm trying to tell you.
You can still do it. Listen, Whitney's Escapes is now your new travel agent. I put it out there on social media and spoken to the atmosphere. I leave tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be in Grenada. That's what we had to do you today, because I was like, I'm not gonna be here. I don't want to miss this opportunity.
I'm so paranoid. I'm so paranoid.
You know what? You shouldn't, because you know why? They make you go through so much testing. Like I have to
the screening process.
the screening process is so tedious. Like when you finally get to where your destination, you're like, because everybody had to go through the same stuff you had to go through. Like literally when I told you in the beginning, I'm filling out all these affidavits because once you get your test results, you have to fill out all these things, these waivers. So have so much restriction. It makes it, if you're not really serious about traveling, it makes it does like inconvenience you. Like, oh, I gotta go get this test. But once you get there, you realize everybody else had to do the same exact thing. So everybody had to have a negative COVID test. Everybody had to go through the same like screening and doctors and stuff. So when you're on vacation, you can just be like, and they have less cases. They have less cases than we have here. So it's like,
they were serious about it.
So
the other places were serious about it. I don't know what we had going on.
Well, you gotta realize it all starts from the head. So if you have a proper head leader, things happen, and that's the whole reason why we actually started her podcast during the pandemic, is explaining to people like, yes, we're on lockdown, but everybody's on lockdown. I've interviewed so many different people, regular people, celebrities. It was like I've been traveling the whole entire COVID, and I'm just like, because technically they're still open, just not to everybody, just to keep precaution. But yeah, like I was stating, like we just had the retreat, and it's usually out the country, so we was trying to do it in the country.
Yeah.
But we still wanted to really care about people's health and stuff. And some people was uncomfortable. And I'm like, if you guys are uncomfortable, we can just do it via Zoom. This is the new norm. Being on social media, being on Zoom, being on StreamYard, being on Twitch, like all these platforms. So we ended up taking a 3-day retreat and turned it into a 4-hour event, which ended up being like 7 hours because she wanted to do a karaoke after with the ladies. But
we gotta have fun. So
absolutely great though. The one thing I loved about it the most was, even though it was open to everyone, it was the majority women of color, Black and Puerto Rican, Spanish, white, like 1 or 2 white here and there. But the dynamic was just phenomenal. Everyone loved every single speaker. Everyone loved every vendor. Even all the guests was touched. Everybody was pleased. Everyone was motivated. Everyone got new clientele, new customers. And it's rare that you see that. Because, when you go to vending spots and you go over here and pay for a table, you hope you sell stuff. And sometimes you don't even sell nothing. Yeah. Everyone was supported. And not because they felt they had to, because they actually had great product. They was professionals. You could tell they love what they do. They love what they're putting out there to people. Yeah. And it was just so phenomenal. I said, if we can be highlighted like this all the time, imagine what would happen in society.
Because you never told me this, and I'm glad to hear some feedback about that. But you know what? Some people, I have gotten a million emails, about doing this, and it was great. But I was telling them, like, she's like, one of the ladies who really blessed me and touched me about this. She was like, I just want to let you know that, God has something great for you. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But she's not, I really want to let you know that this is your platform, and you spoke the least out of everybody else. You highlighted everybody, and you supported everybody publicly, and everybody agreed. I said, because even though this is my platform, it doesn't always have to be about me. And if you're saying you want to bring people together, it can't be like I. Yeah. No, I wanted lovely women who I know are doing things in this world to get highlighted. And I'm saying you have to believe by example. So I'll be in the back corner. Highlight yourself. This is my platform. Use it. And I told her I'll be the first one to buy something from everybody. And I literally bought something from every vendor on there, and everybody just started following for suit. I said, we have to lead by example. We have to know that if we want to see change, we have to start. And I'm like, I don't see people. And I genuinely feel like, what's for me is for me. I can't say I want somebody to support me, but I can't support T-Quest. I can support Christina Jones and put her on a platform. If I can't do those type of things, how in the world do I look asking somebody to support me if I'm not doing to my fellow sister? And I just really think Quest, because she hosted it for me, and all those women, beautiful ladies, even you coming on this platform. I want to have you on my next woman's thing, but I don't want to be like, she doesn't know me yet. She probably like this crazy. But now we have this conversation. But it was really phenomenal. I do this once a year, and I have great feedback. I'm starting probably going to do it every quarter. So when I come back from my trip, I'm going to leave tomorrow at 3:00 this morning. God, Jesus help me. But it's going to be great when I get there. I said I'm going to start setting up for one in February, because they were like, can you do this again? I'm like, okay, I want to see how many of y'all are loyal. You're going to ask for it again. I bet it, because it's true. People say things, but actions speak louder than words. This turnout was phenomenal. I was like, oh, this is great. You guys said some great things. They said on live, I have the recording. You want to do this again? Sooner than later, I'm going to do it. I said, okay, ladies, I'm going to put something together and invite more women, and hopefully my goal is just really to build a wonderful network of women.
Yep.
Entrepreneurs are not, because some people, if they're not an entrepreneur, there could be a clientele. And one is entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
you're still your clientele. And at the end of the day, we're all each other's sisters. We're all women. We can relate some way, somehow. You can encourage women about, importance of love, importance of therapy. I talk about travel. Quest has her whole 20 million different things that she does. Her business specialist, all the connects that she has. We have so many different things that we all bring together if we only would just share a little bit of information, share some support. And also all you ladies and gentlemen who are watching, support Christina C. Jones. She has some really good stories, and the holiday seasons are coming. So, Christina, please tell them all your social media, your website, so they can order all these great things you mentioned earlier. So we could bring you some money for the holidays, girlfriend.
Hey, I receive it. But no, I'm at Being Miss Jones everywhere. That's my website is beingmissjones.com. I used to be a mommy blogger, and so that's where all of that came from, and I just never changed it. I thought it was cute, so I kept it. But I'm at Being Mrs. Jones everywhere. Um, even on YouTube, I think it's youtube.com/being Mrs. Jones. That's my author page, my Instagram handle, my Twitter handle. That's that's me everywhere, and I'm always cooking something or cooking something or making something. All of that. I always got, I'm always doing something besides just talking about my passion, which is writing, and trying to, offer resources and stuff for other women who want to be writers. And sometimes that stuff is not even just useful for other writers. Sometimes it's useful just for other entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm always talking about something somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. What I say, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, and it's finally happening. And I'm gonna put that out there. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
So the way I like to end the show is just giving you a final word. It can be about the books. It can be about the social media, even though you just said it. It could be a wow moment, words of wisdom, whatever you want to say to the people. The time is now.
I don't know what to say.
Go read my book.
Yeah, go read the books. Go read the books. I write a lot. Everything is about Black love. Everything is about women getting the love they deserve in the world, even if they aren't necessarily respectable and this and that. They don't have to fall into any certain standards or anything like that. They're always right. They're not always right. Let me stop. But they definitely, in the end, that is just something that is important to me, and it comes through in my work. You have these people who are coming together and finding someone who doesn't complete them but complements them very well and makes them gives them somebody to make sure that they're not alone in the world. When it all comes down to it, they're not alone in the world. Somebody who loves and supports and just really cherishes them. That's important. That's very important to me, for women to be able to see themselves that way. I know, like, I think one, I can't remember which one of you guys mentioned it earlier, but I think it was T Quest who mentioned how the way that we're portrayed, where we're loud and bossy, and we aren't ever satisfied with anything. And you know what, yeah, I write some women that are all those things, and they still get him in the end. He still love her.
You
Now
know,
what?
you
So
Yes, let them know.
yeah, I just want to, and that's just what I want to do. All types of different women from all types of different backgrounds, all types of different personalities, body sizes, hair types, skin tones, whatever. Like, it's really my goal to, no matter what, there's no matter who you are picking up one of my books, I strive for there to be something that you can relate to in one of the characters in the book so that you see yourself in some way and everything. And that's what I'm about.
And she didn't know what to say. I love it. Just speak from the heart and it's gonna flow out organically, you know? All right. Whitney's Escapes, you on deck.
Well, as you know, my name is Whitney, owner of Whitney Escapes LLC, the #1 travel agency for all my Black beautiful queens. You can
Hey.
follow me on all your social media platforms at Whitney's Escapes. Please follow my YouTube channel, Whitney Escapes LLC, and also you can email me at travel@whitneysescapes.com or go to my website www.whitneysescapes.com. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you for tuning in for this special edition with author Christina J.C. Jones, whose books are amazing. But follow all of us in support. T-Quest.
It's on me. Oh. Now let me stop. No, but seriously, thank you so much for taking the time out to being on the platform, and thank you, Whitney, for being my co-host today. I'm gonna make sure I put all your information out there because all my listeners and all my fans know I cater to every guest that's on my platform. And just in case you missed some of the information, where can you find it? On the T-Quest mobile app, which you can find in your Google Play Store and your App Store for free. So make sure that you go and download that and, have all the information of my guests up there, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever at all times. So there's no reason why you can't get this information. You don't got to rewind it back. It'll be all written out because I cater to my fans. And make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at TQuestGLM and sign up for my mailing list on my website, gallamiro.com. You need any of my services as a voiceover specialist, as a therapist, personality, journalist, music artist, or whatever. Just hit that drop down on my website. It's only about 20 professions. I'm sure one of them you can use. And then I'll be here for you guys. Once again, this is the T-Quest Show. Relatable, informative, yet entertaining. And if you have someone that you would like to highlight and you feel has a story that needs to be told and they have a silent cry behind their grind, make sure you email me at tquestglm@gmail.com. And we'll love to have them on the show. Until next time.